Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Isabel and this is my library. In today's video, I'm going to tell you all the things I want to read in this month of April. April is absolutely filled with so many readathons and events that I want to participate in that my TBR pile is pretty big. So what I've decided to do is I've grouped everything I want to read this month into different categories as far as for what reading events I want to read them for, any readathons, any buddy reads, any book club books that I want to read. And I've kind of organized it like that so that I can present to you this massive group of books that I'm very ambitiously going to try to read in the month of April. So the first event that I want to tell you about is a readathon that I want to participate in called Old School April. So I'm sure you've heard about it. It's kind of popular here on BookTube. And this is a readathon that is put together each year by Kelsey from Slime and Slashers, along with a group of wonderful co-hosts that have put a lot of time and effort into making sure this readathon happens. I've personally never participated in Old School April, but I have seen some of my favorite booktubers throughout the years participate, and I am so excited that this year I will be able to participate. Of course, I will be linking the announcement video as well as Kelsey's channel so that you can look at the announcement video and decide if you too maybe want to participate in Old School April. They've put together a bunch of cool stuff for those that are going to participate in Old School April. There's a Discord channel and there's just a ton of stuff, PDF files with trackers and really cool printouts. I've gone ahead and printed out a bunch of stuff that I'm very excited for. They've even gone ahead and put together some A5 journal sized prompt sheets that I'm super excited for, and tracker sheets, and I'm really excited to use all of these in my journal because you guys know I love journaling and documenting all of these different events that I'm a part of on my reading journal. So yeah, all of that information will be linked down below so that you guys can kind of look through it, and I'll walk you through some of the books that I'm going to try to read for this readathon. This is not just a readathon, but there's also a lot of other events that you can do to participate in this event. You can also watch movies, do nostalgic events, and the whole purpose of Old School April is kind of tapping into those better years, better days, better decades when life was simpler and nicer. So if you're a big fan of nostalgic things like I am, the 80s and the 90s, then maybe this is a readathon that you'd like to be a part of. So the prompts themselves are pretty open. And what I've decided to do, there's a list of books that I'm carrying over from last month from my middle grade March that I kind of like focused on doing some nostalgic reads for that. Some of those things I didn't get to finish in March, so I am making sure that I get to do those in April, and I'm just connecting them to see if I can make them fulfill some of the requirements for my Old School April things that I want to read. So I'll go ahead and share with you some of the things that I'm planning on reading. So one of the prompts for Old School April is reading a Fear Street book. So as you guys know, I'm a big fan of the Fear Street books. I have almost a complete collection of my own original ones. I'm going to go ahead and try to do some readings of the Fear Street books. I have read most of them in my youth, and throughout the years I've reread a couple of them. But what I'm going to try to do is start all over again, just like I started with Goosebumps and just like I started with Choose Your Own Adventure. I'm also going to be starting with Fear Street with volume 1 and then 2 and then 3 and so on and so forth. So I've gone ahead and picked up my first 5 off my shelves. Book 1, The New Girl. Book 2, The Surprise Party. Book 3, The Overnight. Book 4, Missing. And book 5, The Wrong Number. So I'm going to go ahead and try to read 1 or 2 or 3 or as many of these as possible. And yeah, that's some of the things that are on my list for Old School April. And again, for Old School April, you do not have to read necessarily older works. You can make a lot of the prompts fit for you by reading newer stuff or things that feel vintagey or whatever you think is something that would fit in. The prompts are pretty much very open. So yeah, I just like to read nostalgic things and try to reminisce about the better days. So any chance that I get to do that, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So in addition to the Fear Street books, I've also gone ahead and pulled from my shelves the next couple of Choose Your Own Adventure books. I'm going to try to squeeze a couple of those in. So I'm going to pick up with Danger in the Desert, which is book 3, Space and Beyond, book 4, book 5, The Mystery of Chimney Rock, book 6, Your Code Name is Jonah, book 7, The Third Planet from Altair, book 9, Who Killed Harlow Thrombey, and book 10, The Lost Jewels of Nabuti. And I did show you these last month because I did want to get to them in middle grade March, but I was only able to get through that first volume. So I'm carrying these over and hoping that they can fulfill some of my prompts for Old School April. And then lastly, for Old School April, I will be continuing with my Goosebumps journey. So I did read book 1 for middle grade March. You'll see more of all of this in my wrap up, but I am planning on reading book 2, Stay Out of the Basement, Monster Blood, The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, Say Cheese and Die, Let's Get Invisible, and Night of the Living Dummy. And of course, I'll be reading those in order, and I'll try to get through as many as I can to participate in Old School April. And yeah, that's one of the major readathons that I want to partake in this month. I also plan on doing some sprints for that. I also plan on vlogging some of those experiences. There are also other things that you can do to participate and get points. Oh, I didn't even tell you, because you join a team and you accumulate points for your team. I forgot to tell you that. So yeah, I decided to join the Candyman crew. That's the one that I am a part of. I'm a big Candyman fan, so I have joined Candyman crew. And for every book I read or activity I do, and I document and submit those, my team will get points. And basically, yeah, that's how I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I do plan to do some vlogging for that as well. I'm very excited about it. It is my first time doing it, so I'm not completely sure if I'm doing things right or whatever, but I'm excited, and that's all that matters. I'm excited that I get to read more of the things that make me happy and remind me of my childhood. Moving on to the next big thing in April, you may or may not be aware, April is National Poetry Month. And as you guys know, I am a big poetry person. So I love poetry. I love reading collections of poetry. I love teaching poetry. And it's one of those things that I truly feel are magical. I feel like poetry is magical. I feel like reading poetry is almost like a lost art. I feel like so many people are scared of poetry or are intimidated by poetry, and they don't really know where to start, or they're curious about it, or they're not sure that they were ever taught how to read poetry, and so it makes them uncertain. And I'm just a big advocate for spreading the love of poetry, not just in April, obviously, but in every month. But since April is National Poetry Month, I am going to do a lot to make sure that I share my love of poetry with others, and that I myself read a lot more poetry during this month. So I've pulled from my shelves quite a collection of my poetry books. Some are rereads for me, some are books that I've never read before, although these are all poets that I have read from before. So I will be sharing these collections with you. I will read as many of these as I can. Again, my list is very ambitious, but you know that I'm a mood reader too, so I'll be picking things up and reading as I see fit, right? So I'm going to share with you some of the books, the anthologies, the collections of poetry that I will try to read during this month. So the first one is this absolutely beautiful collection entitled Books and Libraries, and they are basically poems about books and reading and libraries. And we have a lot of famous writers here. Some absolutely beautiful poems are in here. It is divided into little sections: the writing on books, And we have some famous writers in here. We have John Keats, we have W.H. Auden, and Billy Collins, some newer writers. And yeah, this is a beautiful, beautiful collection. And this is one that I would like to get to this month. The next collection I would like to get to from Rilke. And this is another beautiful collection. These look so pretty on my shelves. And for those of you who are not familiar, Rilke is one of the most famous German poets. And this is a collection of some of his most famous works. And they come from various other works or various other collections. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this collection. I have read from this poet before, but I don't think I've ever read an entire collection of his works. This will be the first time I do that. So the next collection that I'd like to get to is Poetry 180, A Turning Back to Poetry by Billy Collins. And these are more modern poems. I actually have volume 1 and I also have volume 2 of this, which is more, I believe it's called 180 more poems, collected poems. And these are absolutely stunning. There's a couple of these that I teach my students throughout the years. So I'd like to get to this one as well. Next, I have two small collections of Sylvia Plath's poetry. Sylvia Plath is one of my favorite poets and writers. And I have here the Colossus and Other Poems. And I also have Crossing the Water, both by Sylvia Plath. And these are smaller collections, so I think I'll be able to get through them. Sylvia Plath's poetry is very, very dark. It's very gritty, but it's absolutely beautiful. If you have never read Sylvia Plath's poetry and you do like darker themes and darker poetry, I do recommend her works. And she has quite a few collections of poetry. She was mostly a poet. She only has one novel, The Bell Jar, which is semi-autobiographical, but the majority of her writing is her poetry. So I'd like to get to both of these this month. Then I have this collection which has been on my bookshelves for quite a few years. It's She Walks in Beauty, A Woman's Journey Through Poems. So I did pick this up quite a few years back because obviously I was taken by that title. And I also enjoyed that it was focusing on women and their journey through life in these poems. I also love that this has some beautiful flower illustrations on there. And I like that it separates it into categories. Like the poems are separated into various categories. For example, falling in love, making love, breaking up, marriage, love itself, work, beauty, clothing, and things of the world, motherhood, silence and solitude, growing up and growing old, death and grief, friendship, and how to live. So I really like that it's grouped in those different categories. And I also like that it includes poetry from many different voices. I love that the back we have the poem She Walks in Beauty by Lord Byron. And yeah, it's just a beautiful collection. So the next collection I'd like to get to is Save Twilight by Julio Cortázar. And Julio Cortázar is an Argentinian poet who was born in Brussels. And he was a pretty prolific poet. I do like this bind up of his poetry because we have on one side the Spanish version of the poem, and then on the other side we have the English version of the poem. So I will try to read these in Spanish, as I do enjoy reading from the original language in which things were written in. And obviously if I can do that, I prefer doing that, but I do like that there's the English version on the side for referencing in case there's certain words that I can't pick up on or I don't know what they are. So I do like that. There are quite a few collections that do that. I know the Pablo Neruda Sonetos de Amor, Sonnets of Love, also has the two sides. That bind up also has the English on one side and the Spanish on the other. So I do appreciate that. And this is a beautiful cover as well. So the next one I'd like to get to is Poeta en Nueva York by Federico Garcia Lorca. And I have talked about Lorca before on my channel. It's just I've talked to you about his plays. I've talked to you about the House of Bernarda Alba, and in this case, I'm bringing you one of his collections of poetry, which is Poet in New York. And this one is all in Spanish, and it does have some beautiful illustrations, and it does have annotations as well. So I am a really big fan of this collection. See, we have the poems, and all of this is just footnotes, which does provide a more in-depth study of Federico Garcia Lorca and his poetry, which I absolutely love. And yeah, this is a collection from one of his times spent in the city of New York. It was inspired by his time there, his travels there. Again, Federico Garcia Lorca is a Spaniard writer living during the 1930s in Spain, and he's very prolific with both his plays as well as his poems. The next thing I'd like to get to this month is Dylan Thomas Collected Poems. And this was a gift from a former student of mine, and it is absolutely beautiful. It has some of his most famous poems in here. For those of you who don't know, Dylan Thomas is a Welsh poet, very famous and very prolific, although he did die very young in his 30s, I believe. And this does include some of his most famous poems, and I would like to get to this one this month as well. So next on my list is this collection called Home by Whitney Hansen. And Whitney Hansen is actually a poet that I discovered on Instagram. And this is, I think, her only collection of poems. I know she has another book, which is more like journal writing, but this is her collection of poems. And I find her social media account very inspiring. And so I purchased this to support, and I've been meaning to get to it and read some of her poems. And yeah, this should be a pretty quick one, as most of the poems are very short, but I'm excited to hear a young, fresh, new voice writing poetry. And this cover's so beautiful. Next, I also want to get to Night Sky with Exit Wounds by Ocean Vuong. And Ocean Vuong is a favorite author of mine, and he does have a couple collections of poetry, and he's also very well known for his novel On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, which is a stunning work. If you have not read that and you are interested in reading some more classics, modern classics, that is a classic in the making. And Ocean Vuong is a Vietnamese writer, and I'm very excited to dive into this. The structure and form of his poems is something that he plays around with, and I really enjoy that. That's something that I love in poetry, when form equals meaning. It's something I teach to my students a lot. And yeah, I'm very excited to maybe read this one. And the last thing that I have as a part of everything I'd like to read for National Poetry Month is Neighborhood Odes by Gary Soto. And this one is also a very, very thin one. And in here we have a lot of beautiful poems that are pretty much odes to various things. Ode to my library, to my park, to my tennis shoes. And yeah, this is absolutely beautiful, and there's some wonderful illustrations in here. I love it. And Gary Soto, if you're unfamiliar with him, he is a Mexican American writer, very prolific as well. And I do love this concept of modernizing the ode, which is a very formal, beautiful type of poem. I'm looking forward to reading this one as well. And those are all the books of poetry I'd like to get to this month. So far I've shared with you my old school April TBR and my poetry TBR. Now I'm going to go ahead and gloss a little bit over all the other things that I still want to try to get to this month. And again, I know it's a very ambitious TBR, but you guys know that whatever I don't get to read will carry over for next month. A lot of these books I've either hauled and told you about, or I've talked to you about for a previous month. So I'm just going to very quickly go over them. If it's a book that I have not mentioned before on my channel, then I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit more about it. So I've already gone ahead and started this one. You Are Fatally Invited by Andy Pliego. This is one of those that is an isolated closed circle mystery. All these people are invited to this one place and people start dying one at a time. And you know that I love that trope. I also talked to you a little bit about this one when I hauled it, The Inheritance by Trisha Saklecha. And again, a group of people are invited for the reading of this inheritance. And you guys know I love a good inheritance story. And the reason I want to get to this one this month, besides the fact that I'm super excited about it, is that this is Kayla, Books and Lala's April pick for the Literally Dead book club. So I do want to get to this one this month for those reasons, to be able to watch the live show and see what everyone else thinks about it. This month, I also really want to get to The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I think I mentioned in my last journal update, for those of you who watch my journal updates, my reading journal updates, I mentioned to you that I put this one on my TBR because of the blurb game. And I have been wanting to read this for years, guys. I really have. The movie has come out a while back. I have not watched the movie. And you guys know I love horror movies. I'm always on top of the newest mystery movie or horror movie that comes out. I haven't watched it simply because I need to read this first. This is a book that has been on my highly anticipated list for so long. I know I'm going to love this. I know I'm going to love this. I'm a Paul Tremblay fan. I have such excitement for this book. And I'm finally going to try to do it. I'm going to try to do it this month. I'm going to try to get to it. And this is such a favorite for so many people that have similar reading tastes to me. So I cannot wait to read this. Have you guys read this? Do you love it? Like, is it that great? I really, really want to love this, guys. Like, I think I'll be brokenhearted forever if I don't end up loving this. This needs to be a 5-star. This needs to be a 5-star. So another book that I've had on my TBR forever that also came into my TBR for this month because of the blurb game is The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. So you guys already know I love Ashley Winstead. I've talked about a couple of her books on my channel. She actually has a book coming out this month that I also need to get. I haven't gotten that one yet. But The Last Housewife is a book that I've heard wonderful things about. I know it's very graphic. I know it's one of those intense reads, but I've been wanting to read this forever. And I'm excited. I'm excited to finally get to it this month. The next book that I'm going to try to read this month is Tell Me What You Did by Carter Wilson. And I did talk about this one in my haul video. And basically, I'm reading it for Gabby's book club from Gabby Reads. I want to read this one because it's part of the book troop's book choice for this month. So I really want to get to it. And it's basically about a podcaster who has people come in and confess to like different crimes that they've committed. And for this one, the person who comes in to the podcast confesses to killing the person who runs the podcast's mom. And she's like, you can't have killed my mom because I killed that person. I killed the person who did that. And so it's like, what? Who are you? Or whatever. I like a good podcast element. I like a good reality TV element. So I'm excited for this one. I think this one will be good. And I've heard a couple of good things. I think I've seen a couple people liking this one who have already read it. So hopefully I end up liking it too. All right, guys, we've made it the last little stack of things that I want to read in April. I need a drink break. So the last few books. I would love to get to The Seven Dials Mystery by Agatha Christie this month. I have been neglecting my Read Christie 2025, but I'm gonna get back to it. As you guys know, I participate in this yearly. It is my goal to read all of the Agatha Christie books. That is a goal of mine. I have to do that in my lifetime. My mom has read all of them. She's an inspiration for me to do this, and I will get this done. And this is the selection for this month. So I will hopefully get to this one this month. The next book that I want to get to is Never Have I Ever by Jocelyn Jackson. This book has been on my TBR for years. The reason is it is on my TBR is because I pulled it from my TBR scratch off jar. That's what this one is, and I haven't gotten to it. And there's just something about it. Every time I want to start this book, I end up not starting it, but it has a lot of tropes that I love. I know it's an older thriller already, so I'm sure a lot of you have liked it or have read it before. It has mixed, I think it's like a 3.5 rating or 3.8 rating on Goodreads, so it's not a great rating, but it has a lot of things that I like. It has a game element, and I've just been wanting to read this forever. Jocelyn Jackson is a writer I've read from before, and I do like her thrillers, so I'm hoping that I'll end up liking this one, or that the game element itself will carry it through and maybe, solidify it as a 4-star, hopefully, because I have been wanting to read this forever. So the next thing that I want to read this month is actually a buddy read that I'm doing with my husband. And so yeah, we decided that we wanted to do 2 buddy reads this year. So we decided that he would pick a book and we would read it together. And then I decided that I would pick a book and we would read it together. Obviously, it would be books that make sure that our tastes line up. So I went ahead and picked mine. And this is actually a reread for me. I read this, I want to say, when I was in the 9th grade, maybe the 8th grade. And I absolutely loved it. And I've always told my husband, oh, you read from this writer before so much. He's a big fan of this writer. How have you never read this one? This is something you would totally love. And I think he would love it because it's fantasy, and he's a big fantasy person. I am not, but I remember loving this when I read it years ago, and I've been wanting to reread it for so long. And so the buddy read I will be doing with my husband is The Eyes of the Dragon by Sir Stephen King. And I'm just excited. I'm excited to be able to read this with him. I remember loving this, and I obviously love Stephen King, and I love his horror books, and everything I've read by King I have loved, but this one felt different when I read it. Maybe it's just that I was younger, or maybe it's me just reminiscing nostalgically about it, but I remember liking this one a lot. And so I'm hoping that he will love it as well, and that it'll be a good buddy read. And let me know if you want to see us do like a little video or a little vlog talking about our buddy read. I'd have to convince him to want to be on camera for a while, but maybe there's something that we can work out. So if that's something you'd like to see, let me know so that I can use it as leverage to convince him. But yeah, I will be buddy reading this with my husband this month. The next book that I want to read this month is part of the Read with Jenna books, and it is The Dream Hotel. And I did talk to you about this in my haul, and I'm very excited about it. About this, it has a speculative kind of element to it. Basically, in this world, they have the ability of tapping into our dreams, and they have this thing called the dream police. And so this woman is traveling, and they stop her and arrest her because they have tapped into her dreams, and they have been able to pinpoint that she is someone who's going to commit this crime. And so preemptively they arrest her. And yeah, that's the premise of the book, and that's all I really need to know. But it sounds great. All right, guys, and now the last thing that is on my TBR officially for the month of April is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This will probably be my 5th or 6th time reading this. I am starting this with my kiddos. Now when we come back from spring break, it's going to be the last book that we read before the AP test, and I'm due for a reread. So I bought myself this beautiful penguin cloth bound classic version. And I will be annotating and, you know, doing what I do with it and discussing it with my kids at school. And so that is something that I need to get to this month because they will be reading it this month as well. They have the entire month of April to kind of read it right before their exam. And I'm thinking of maybe doing a couple video series of me reading and annotating this. Let me know if that's something that you are interested in. A couple annotating or my methods of annotating video. It's something that I've kind of thought that I would want to film, but haven't really done it yet. But if there's enough interest for all my fans of classics or those of you who enjoy annotating books of literary merit, let me know if that's something that you want to see from me, and I can make that happen. And so, yeah, there you have it, guys. That's everything that I want to read in the month of April. And I know it's a very ambitious uh, pile of wonderful books, but I'll be happy if I get to read at least some of them and have a little bit of representation of all the wonderful things I like to read, a couple books of poetry, a couple nostalgic reads, so on and so forth. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know, are you planning to participate in Old School April? Have you read any of these books that I have on my list? What are your thoughts? Talk to me, let me know. Please consider liking or subscribing. It really does help my channel. And yeah, I think that's it for me for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye. Dog barking. Waiting for the dog to stop barking. It's right outside the door.